In the midst of darkness and despair of war, a light is shining in Gaza. A former militant has turned to Christ. Reports are spreading that Gaza's Christians are serving their community. And many say Jesus is appearing to people through dreams and visions.
Amidst tragedy and suffering, God is moving within war-torn Gaza. Nearly 200 Gazans gave their hearts to Jesus in a single night because the Lord appeared to them in visions and dreams. They embraced one another, rejoicing as they realized each of them had experienced the very same vision. Imagine waking up to hear whispers across the globe that something extraordinary had taken place in one of the most war-stricken regions on Earth. A land of pain, conflict and division suddenly captured the world's attention, not because of politics or destruction, but because of something miraculous. Reports began to circulate that deep in Gaza, countless people had witnessed a vision that defied all explanation, a vision of Jesus Christ. At first, many dismissed it as rumor. Some believed it to be propaganda. Others assumed it was a dream. But as testimony after testimony poured in, hundreds, then thousands, the magnitude of the event could no longer be denied. What if it were true? What if, in one of the most unlikely places, Jesus Christ appeared and transformed thousands of lives in a moment? Before exploring this breathtaking account, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future documentaries where history, faith, and archaeology come together to uncover truths that continue shaking the world. Now, let us journey into Gaza and examine the story that has left many stunned. Across the region, many Muslims are quietly searching for an alternative to Islam. Revival is stirring, with new believers already emerging. For centuries, Gaza has been a place marked by turmoil. Ancient empires rose and fell on its soil. It belonged once to the Philistines of the Bible, the very ground where Samson pulled down the pillars of Dagon's temple, later caught in the struggles between Egypt, Israel and Rome. In modern times, Gaza has remained under siege, scarred by politics, war and division. Countless lives have been lost, and generations have known nothing but conflict. Here, religion shapes every aspect of daily existence. Islam remains the dominant faith, with only a small Christian remnant surviving. Yet history reveals that God often chooses the most unexpected places to display his glory. As the prophet Isaiah declared, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned." Isaiah 9:2. Could Gaza, of all places, have become the very ground where this ancient prophecy resounded once more? It began with only a few voices. Families in Gaza spoke of dreams and visions of a radiant man dressed in white, brighter than the sun, calling himself Isa al-Masih, Jesus the Messiah. This phenomenon was not entirely new. For decades, missionaries and researchers had recorded testimonies of Muslims worldwide experiencing dreams of Jesus. But what happened here unfolded on a scale unlike anything seen before. Within days, thousands came forward, claiming they had encountered the same vision. Some described seeing him walking among the ruins of their streets, his presence filling them with peace. Others testified that he touched them, instantly healing their wounds and illnesses. Mothers recounted children waking in the night, pointing upward and declaring they had seen the man from heaven. As these testimonies multiplied, something even more astonishing began to take place. Hearts started to change, one by one, then in small groups and soon in overwhelming crowds. People in Gaza began declaring faith in Jesus Christ. What began as scattered testimonies quickly grew into a wave of transformation rippling across the land. Reports estimated that tens of thousands of Muslims in Gaza and the surrounding regions openly confessed Jesus as Lord within only a few weeks of these remarkable events. This was not a quiet or hidden shift. It was bold, public, and unstoppable. Entire communities gathered together to proclaim their new faith, as if a divine spark had set the region ablaze with hope. Former imams and respected religious leaders stood in front of their congregations with trembling voices and radiant faces announcing, "We have seen the Messiah, he is alive, he is alive, he is Lord." The scene was reminiscent of the book of Acts, when Peter preached on the day of Pentecost and thousands were added to the church in a single moment. Scripture records, "Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day." Acts 2:41. But here, it was not just 3,000. It was thousands upon thousands, men, women, children, elders, all confessing a single name together, Jesus. The stories behind these conversions were as moving as they were astonishing. One woman described her vision. "I saw him standing in my home, though the doors were closed. He stretched out his hand toward me, and suddenly the pain I carried in my body vanished. He said, 'Do not be afraid, I am with you.' From that moment, I knew he was more than a prophet. He is the Son of God." Another testimony came from a young man who had once shouted angrily against Christians. With tears streaming down his face, he explained, "I dreamed of him 3 nights in a row. On the 3rd night, he looked at me and said, 'I died for you.' I woke up trembling. I could not resist anymore. I gave him my life." Stories like these spread like wildfire through the streets and neighborhoods of Gaza, convincing even skeptics that something extraordinary was unfolding. People who had dismissed Christianity as foreign or irrelevant suddenly found themselves drawn into a movement they could not explain. Christians worldwide began asking a powerful question. Could this be a fulfillment of biblical prophecy? The scriptures have long spoken of a day when every nation will hear the gospel and multitudes will respond to Christ. The prophet Joel declared, "And afterward I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions." Joel 2:28. Likewise, in the book of Revelation, John described a vision of the final harvest. "After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb." Revelation 7:9. Could this unprecedented wave of conversions in Gaza be a glimpse of that great multitude foretold in Scripture? Could we be witnessing the Spirit of God sweeping through one of the most unexpected and troubled corners of the earth? The world could not ignore what was happening. Governments scrambled to respond, unsure how to manage the sudden religious shift. Religious authorities debated fiercely. Was this genuine revival, or was it deception? Media outlets, both secular and religious, struggled to cover the events with any sense of balance. Some called it the greatest revival since the days of the apostles, while others feared it would ignite more unrest in an already unstable region. Yet regardless of differing opinions, one fact remained unshakable. Thousands of lives had been transformed by encounters they insisted were with Jesus himself. What made this story even more profound was not merely the number of conversions, but the place in which they happened. Gaza has long been seen as a symbol of despair, a land marked by endless conflict and hopelessness, often forgotten by the world. Yet in the eyes of God, no place is too broken and no people too far gone. The Apostle Paul reminds us in Romans, where sin increased, grace increased all the more. Romans 5:20. If grace can pour out over Gaza, if light can shine into the darkest of places, then truly there are no limits to the reach of God's love. The ripple effects went far beyond individual faith. Families once divided by pain and bitterness found reconciliation. Neighbors who had harbored hatred discovered forgiveness. Communities scarred by years of war and loss began to experience healing. People reported miraculous recoveries from sicknesses. deliverance from addictions, and newfound peace that defied the chaos around them. In homes across Gaza, worship songs replaced cries of despair, and testimonies of hope echoed in streets long accustomed to grief. International observers were stunned. Some scholars suggested that the visions and mass conversions pointed to an unprecedented move of God that paralleled early church history. Others argued that such reports revealed the human longing for hope in a land where despair had reigned too long. Yet for those who had seen Jesus in their dreams, felt his touch in their pain, and heard his voice in their hearts, no argument was necessary. They knew what they had experienced was real. Even the language of prophecy seemed to come alive in their midst. Joel's promise of visions and dreams was not confined to ancient Israel. It was happening among Muslims in Gaza. John's vision of a multitude from every nation seemed to stretch into the present, as men and women in a place often considered unreachable now stood among the redeemed. And Acts 2, with its sudden outpouring of faith and explosive growth of the church, found an echo in modern times on the streets of Gaza. For believers around the world, the question now became, what does this mean for the global church? Could it be that God is choosing to reveal his power in regions long considered hostile to Christianity as a sign that the harvest is truly at hand? Could Gaza, once a symbol of endless conflict, become a testimony of God's redemptive grace? Thousands of conversions, visions of Christ in the heart of Gaza, lives transformed, families restored, and an entire region shaken to its core. Whether the world embraces it or not, something extraordinary has taken place. It cannot be explained by politics, propaganda, or human effort alone. It challenges us all to consider, what if it is true? What if Jesus Christ is still appearing, still healing, and still calling people to himself, even in the darkest corners of the earth? For those who have witnessed it firsthand, there is no doubt. They have seen him, they believe, and their lives will never be the same again. That is the breaking story shaking the world today. If you found this account eye-opening, make sure you subscribe and stay with us as we continue to explore how faith and history collide in ways that leave us in awe of God as power.